Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Tim, and I'm going to talk to you today about how to start playing Flesh and Blood on a budget. So, if you're not familiar with what Flesh and Blood is, it is a newer CCG or TCG that has taken the scene by storm for a few different reasons. But there are a lot of players that have heard about the game that are, wanting to try the game out and are kind of weary of where to start. Traditionally, if you're looking to play a new card game, there are starter decks that are available, like let's say Magic the Gathering. If you've never played it before, you can go into your LGS or whatever store sells cards online, etc., and you can buy a starter deck for $20 or less. Comes with rules and all that, and it's a pretty low point of entry, right? That's kind of what we're looking for because we want to try something that we've heard good things about. We don't want to, drop a fortune on it. The issue with Flesh and Blood right now is that there's a lot of hype around the game. A lot of people have started investing and collecting in it, and those initial starter decks and even the unlimited booster boxes are pretty pricey at the moment. There's just no supply left. People have started collecting those things just for that reason. So players are seeing starter decks, $70 plus. The Welcome Ira decks have skyrocketed because there's a collectible factor with that. Unlimited boxes are, minimum $120 usually on TCG Player right now. And so that's kind of a big point of entry. And so that kind of scares a lot of people off. And people are worried about, oh, that's too pricey for me. I'm just not going to worry about the game, and they're concerned about it. So there are some different ways you can start playing it that are going to cost a lot less. And I'm going to show you guys basically 3 of those different ways. So this could be raw, unedited. I don't do any editing or anything like that. So basically, I'm just going to turn my camera around. We're going to look at the computer screen. I know it should come out pretty well, hopefully. But yeah, here we go. Okay, so right now I'm going to tab over. Oh, look, here's my channel that I have nothing on yet. So we're going to start out with going to Fab Foundry. So basically, I'm just going to go to the main website. The first, I would say, suggested way to start doing this is to find a starter deck that's already been pre-constructed by another retailer. Fab Foundry is one that does this. There's some other ones I'm not exactly familiar with at the moment. There are other players too that have made their own decks to try to get people into it. But this is one that's really, really cheap. This is probably the cheapest way before taxes and shipping that I found that you can start with. So on the menu, we're going to go down to decks. And these are decks that they have pre-constructed themselves. And so some of these are sold out. The issue here is that there's going to be some limited availability because they can just basically build these whenever they have the supplies to do it. And before, enough people buy them out. But let's start off with Bravo, right? So these are $14 decks that are already pre-constructed. And it talks about, a little bit general information there, but has the deck contents. And this is a classic constructed, so this will be 60 card minimum. I would suggest going for Blitz, which is a 40 card deck before your hero and equipments, which comes out to about 52 cards. It's a little bit easier to start playing with Blitz heroes. Lower card pool, lesser life, things like that. But this is a heck of a deal for getting the number of cards that you get. So $14 for these decks, and that's a great way to, I would say, pick a couple of them. The ones that they have were Rhinar, Bravo, and Katsu. So I would target, if you're starting out, any of the first 4 heroes. That's going to be Rhinar, Dorinthia, Bravo, and Katsu. These are probably the easiest ones to play. The Arcane Rising heroes were a little bit more complex. Anyway, pick up a couple for maybe you and a friend. And, basically before shipping and taxes, that's $28 right there for you and someone else to start playing. So that's going to be what I would say the cheapest way to start playing the game. The second way, which is going to be just a little bit more expensive, not by much, that's going to be building your own from singles. So what I would start doing here is, if you go to, this is fabdb.net, so this is the FAB database. So this is basically a custom-made database that has a deck building feature in it. It's got a lot of different things like card lists and galleries and stuff. But if you go to decks and you go to browse, you can find decks that are already pre-built from different players, and it has kind of a cost list next to it. But what we're looking for is a 0 rare deck, something that would be basically the cheapest point of entry. So let's start out with Bravo. We already looked at Bravo before. Our format, we're going to want Blitz. This is my recommended format for playing a game, as I mentioned. And then we're going to look at Popular. So there's Newest and there's Popular. So we're going to search. And we're looking for a 0 rare deck or something that's like 6 rare, right? So this is one that's pretty cheap. We're going to go for the 0 rare. It's a little cheaper. It's only composed of commons. So this one, the suggested price is about 25 bucks, right? So a little bit more than the 14. However, that's all dependent upon, you know, how much you pay for the singles. So it gives you a deck list. So this one's going to take a little bit more time to do. It's a little bit more effort intensive. But you're going to be able to, you know, put these all together. And you can pretty much, at that point, let's say, you know, you wanted the Dorinthia deck from Fab Foundry and they didn't have it. Well, you can put together your own. But you can go off of this list and put together the singles for it. So the fastest, I guess, most efficient way to do that, I like using TCG Player. I always have. But you can use whatever, I guess, card site you'd like. And under Flesh and Blood, we're just going to go to Shop All first. And so what we want to do is filter some of this out to where it's the, I guess, most efficient way to put these lists together. So right now we're going to look for, we're going to go down to Common. And then we're also going to go down and select Bravo. So it's going to be Guardian. That's his class style. So now we're limiting down to 47 cards. You can limit it down even further if you just want to go to Welcome to Wraith or Crucible of War. And you can just go off of the prices there. And so if I'm going to go back to the Bravo Hero deck, sorry about that. Right, I'm going to start with just going through weapons, through equipment. Some of these are general, so you might not, you'll have to, you know, either just search these out or you can go buy like Nolvarin boots or going to be Arcane Rising. But anyway, right, so Anothos, this is his signature weapon. It's in Crucible or it's in Welcome to Wraith. It really doesn't matter, but there's, you know, so 21 cents here is the lowest pricing for Anothos. But let's just go with like, let's start with Welcome to Wraith. Right, so Buckling Blow. Pretty sure that's, yeah, so there's 2 copies here. And so I could go click on Buckling Blow, go down and pick a shop to buy from. So really, shipping isn't going to matter as much because you're going to aim for buying as many cards from one shop as you can to minimize your shipping costs. I'd like to pick something that has a very good reputation, so 100%, probably a decent number of sales. You know, even if you're spending maybe 10 cents more on a card, it's not that big of a deal. Because what we're going to be looking for too is shops that have a lot on hand. So Tier 1 CCG, let's just start out with that. Maybe we'll be able to find some. So they have 26 copies on hand. So if you want 2 cards for the deck, like it suggests, we'll select 2, we'll go to Add to Cart, and we'll just go back. And then let's find another card that's in the list. So Buckling Blow Red. So that one's also on the list, right? So Buckling Blow Red, click on that. We're ready to look for that Tier 1 CCG, right? So it'll highlight if you already bought cards from there, right? So highlighted green, you've got 22 copies, right? So this is a store that has a bunch of commons on hand. So let's go buy 2. And you're basically just going to go through the list that way. And so the suggested retail of that $25 should be about what you finish at. Hopefully you won't have to go to, you know, a bunch of different stores. You're only aiming to usually buy just from one store, maybe one other store. If there's like, you know, let's say there's 1 common card or 2 common cards they're out of, you can just swap to another store. That'll keep your shipping costs pretty low. So ideally there, you're just putting together pre-con lists already, and it should get you into that like $20 to $25 range. You might be able to even beat that suggested price just depending on where you buy from, what they have listed at. So that's what I did for some of these cards. Now I did buy some boxes and put stuff together myself, but to fill out the rest of the deck, I just bought singles because singles for the unlimited cards and even Crucible of War commons are all pretty cheap, as you saw. They're all in that 10 to 20 cent range. which is a lot cheaper than trying to buy a $120+ booster box and put together some decks. And then the third way I'm going to show you is going to be a little bit different. So both those ways are physical playing. But if you have a computer or laptop that can, modestly play games, we're going to look through to start playing the game on Tabletop Simulator. So if you have other friends too, this helps. If you have friends that also play computer games, you can do it this way. And so we're going to go to Steam. So Steam is the gaming client that most people use. And we're going to look for, as soon as this thing wants to show up, we are going to look for Tabletop Simulator. Okay, here we go. So Tabletop Simulator is basically what it is. It's a tabletop simulation game, right? So this is it right here. So it is $19.99. I already have it in my cart, in my library. So it's $20 for the simulator, or you could buy multiple copies for 4-pack for $60, save $20. $20. So basically the same price as buying one initial starter deck or pre-con or whatever that we talked about, and you can play with whatever. So after you buy the game and install it, what you can do is go to the community hub. This should have, if I did this right, okay, so the workshop. So you're going to go to the workshop here, and you're going to search. So just so I didn't go through that too much, community hub. You can also, if it's in your library, we'll talk about this too here. If it's in your library, Tabletop Simulator, you can go to the workshop. Other way to do it, and you're going to search Flesh and Blood. So there's a few different mods, but the main one I would recommend is the first one here, so Flesh and Blood OSC. So you're going to click on that, and you're just going to hit subscribe. So it'll show you, it'll just say subscribe if you're not subscribed. And so when you start up the game, you'll be able to start up that mod. And that mod has, it's Flesh and Blood. You can import deck lists, you can play, you can build your own in the game, but there's a couple good tutorials. There's one that I'll link, in the description. It's about 27 minutes long or so, but it's a good way on how to use the Tabletop Simulator, how to get started with playing Flesh and Blood. And so that's $20 one-time purchase to play with every card in the game, basically. And so that's another way, that's a cool way to, if you don't want to play physical, if you just want to, COVID's going on still in multiple parts of the world, most of the world, you want to play online at a distance with friends. That's another great way to start doing it. And it's also a good way to test out decks. And so, if you buy a deck online, let's say you bought Dorinthia because, you thought, oh, that she looked cool, and then you start playing and you go, I don't really like this as much. Playing Tabletop Simulator is a good way to get a feel for the decks. Even if you're not playing against anyone, you can start a single player mode in the game, import one of the pre-con deck lists, and just kind of start playing yourself as if you were, not playing against anyone, and get a feel for how the cards work and how the hero works and stuff like that. And so I started doing that with some of the Arcane Rising heroes or whatever. But yeah, anyway, that's pretty much the top 3 ways I would suggest. Proxies is another way, but I generally don't like to do proxies. Typically, you have to get other people on board that are cool with playing proxies, and I think that a cube proxy is probably the best way to do that because everybody pulls from the same card pool. But anyway, yeah. So that's pretty much my recommended ways to start playing Flesh and Blood on a budget. And I hope you guys learned something. I've seen a lot of comments recently from new players that see the prices skyrocketing across the board in various aspects of the game, and they feel like they're getting priced out because you're used to, like I mentioned, looking for a starter deck or looking for a booster box just to open, and you go, wow, it's $130 starter deck, $70. Like, why would I want to pay that price to play a game that I don't know if I'm going to enjoy? But just with a little bit of effort right now, those are the three best ways I would recommend to start playing. And that's what I did with Tabletop Simulator for trying out different decks. And that's what I've done to piece together, some of the standard, or not standard, but constructed decks that I have is just put together commons. The cool thing about this game is that you don't need a bunch of rares and majestics and legendaries and whatever to have good functioning decks that are fun to play. I mean, most of the powerful cards in the game are commons. It's like, yeah, they're powerful, higher rarity cards, but it's not necessary to enjoy the game, at least to start playing it. So yeah, that's all I've got for this video. So from here on out, I don't know, I'll do some different topics and stuff, but hope you guys enjoyed, learned something from it. If you have questions, let me know. And yeah, that's what I got. So cheers.